Welcome, everybody. So glad you could join us today. I'm Shannon McGee. I'm a franchise owner for Network in Action in the metropolitan Nashville, Tennessee area. And I'm excited today to introduce David Ross. He's a certified go-giver speaker. He's passionate about helping individuals and organizations unlock success through the power of giving. Drawing from the principles of the best-selling book, The Go-Giver, David delivers real-world insight, energy, and authenticity into every talk. With a strong background in strategic consulting and leadership development, he inspires audiences to shift from a get to give mindset, proving that most people are those who add value to others. So thank you again, David. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate it. Appreciate your willingness to sponsor me and actually give me the microphone for 3 hours. Hope everybody's locked in, ready to go. It's this is going to feel like a LSU football game, except somebody else is going to win. No, just kidding.
No.
Um, so before we get started, I'm a big believer in learning from everybody else. So in the chat, if you wouldn't mind putting down what you're reading right now to get better. Right now, I've got like five different things that I'm reading. I'm reading a book by Sir John Templeton, Greatness Ideas, how to make yourself better. Reading something by David Cook, Dr. David Cook, who was the mental coach for the Dallas Mavericks, and I'm sorry, San Antonio Spurs, and for David Robinson. So I'm a big believer in, just reading different things. So if you put something in the chat and let us know what you're reading so we can share that around and get better, because this group, just like any group we belong to, it's all about getting better and learning from each other. So um, uh, the Go Giver is a book. It's a mindset. It's a strategy around giving exceptional value and enjoying extraordinary results. And I'm very fortunate to from my phone from my there we go, um, to be a Go Giver speaker for Bob Berg. And a little bit about me: I'm a business consultant. The reason I do things is for the five people you see there. I'm the ugly one on the right. Son, two daughters, and wife. I'm a recovering professional musician that lives in Nashville. I moved to Nashville in 1992 for the jazz scene. Now, how many of you know that Nashville is the music city, right? Everybody knows Nashville's music city, right? How many of you know there's a jazz scene in Nashville? There isn't, and there wasn't in 1992 either. So Nashville was supposed to be a temporary stop, and I'm been here over 32 years. Got my first master's from MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University, then got my MBA from Belmont, and then transitioned into business. But I am a proud West Virginia Mountaineer, just like Moose is a proud LSU Tiger. I had to think about what they're, because SEC, some of them have one name but say other stuff. So you kind of have to figure out what the SEC is. But I'm also extremely proud of being a Go Giver certified speaker and coach. And how that really happened is interesting. Uh, and I got to meet uh, Bob. And actually I get to spend time with him on a regular basis. He's written and sold somewhere around 15 million books at this point. And the co-author, John David Mann, who, by the way, if anybody likes like Tom Clancy, David Baldacci, any of those type of books, the government intrigue and people, head exploding and that kind of stuff. read John David Mann's three books: Blind Fear, Cold Fear, and Steel Fear. They're incredible, and he's usually a ghost author on things, but he did those under his name, and they're just absolutely incredible. But to tell you how I met these gentlemen is an interesting story. In 2016, um, I had successfully exited from a financial planning firm. I was kind of sick of that. And one of my um, thought processes in life could be summed up in the verse from Luke, chapter 12, verse 48. Uh, Too much is given, much is required. And we had a photographer at the time of some fancy, I can't, Scott something or other, that took pictures of people, with, as you see my hands outreached, they'd write on you with the markers or whatever and take pictures in various formats. And I decided to do a review of the book The Go Giver, which had been out since 2007. But when I read it in 2007, it was how I always had done business. I had always been about giving, helping people, and that was just my thought process. And this book, um, which is written in the fable format, which was very popular back then, raving fans as an example, or who moved my cheese, all those kind of things. It's very popular. Um, so I did this little uh, book review on it, and I noted Bob and John David Mann. Um, I get a personal message, and you can see it on the right of the screen. David, thank you, tagging John David Mann, and just being very gracious, which I was really shocked, because here's a guy at that point, the book had sold probably 7 million copies. And I said, that's probably his assistant, or, somebody that did that. Yeah, that's nice. And then I got a similar message from John David Mann. The next day, I get a phone call from his Bob's business partner, Kathy Tagmel, and she says, "Do you have time for a phone call with Bob?" I said, "Well, yeah, I've just successfully retired, because I retired at 47, and my wife unretired me at 48, because she was tired of me being in the house." And so I said, "Yeah, I'd love to talk to him." And so here I am talking to this gentleman who had written a book that I've probably given about 300, maybe 350 copies of this book out uh, over the years. One of the things that I do is I always, when I meet somebody for the first time or after the first meeting, I will send them a book, or I'll hand it to them when I give it, when I meet them the first time. And this is one of my go-tos. It's either this one or Raving Fans or a couple others. And so we had this conversation that turned into a friendship that has turned into a mentorship. And um, I guess 2020, right around COVID, actually, it's a little before COVID, they started their certified speaker program and asked me to join. So that's how I got to meet him and got this ability. But it was all because I just happened to reach out, and he just happened to see it. Now, I don't believe in coincidence. I always think there's a higher power involved. But that was the story, and that's how I got here. So when you take a look at that, um, the whole premise behind the book is one of the things that NIA talks about constantly. All things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. Period. End of discussion. That is the foundation of what NIA is. So as I go through this presentation, I've actually put it into a format that says, this is what the book says, and this is how it relates, at least in my mind, to NIA. Um, again, just trying to give you a little context. But there was somebody else that said something quite similar, and that was our friend Zig Ziglar. You will get all you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. Now, I don't say it with nearly the Southern drawl that he did because of I'm as my father-in-law says, I'm a damn Yankee because I moved here and stayed. But uh, again, same premise that as long as you help other people get what they want, you're going to get what you want, whatever that may be. And so, again, that golden rule of business and I don't know what, so my tech, I'm going to blame Brooks Crystal since he's here on my tech problems because I can blame him for them. So the first law that we're going to talk about is the law of value. And that law states that your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now let's think about that for a second. So many people, I don't want to say complain, but they say, I'm just not necessarily making enough. Well, I, I think it's reversed because I think, and I'm going to pick on her for a minute because um, Shannon McGee gives, and I know a lot of the other um, NIA franchise owners give. And I don't know anything about her financial situation, but I'm pretty darn sure she gives a heck of a lot more than she makes as a franchise owner. The idea is that you're giving so much that at some point that wheel's going to come back around and help you, but that's not really the true value. That's not true the true thing that you should really measure your value. Money is an echo of value. It's the thunder to value's lightning. It's a byproduct. If you give value, if you truly care about Moose and whether his Tigers make it to the SEC championship, which will truly be the NCAA championship, but we won't get into that discussion either. But if you truly give, that's where the value is going to come from. And so, you know, and the other thing that I found in this whole thought process is the ultimate benefit of genuine listening is to honor the other person. And when you listen to that other person, you're going to hear what they need and how they need it. So the whole and taking this to the NIA side, as I have another tech issue, boy, it's going all kinds of places. Brooks, you're a problem. There we go. How many places, how many networking organizations have a guaranteed return on investment? I only know of one. That's NIA. And I will tell you personally, I blew it out by about, I've been a member 2 years and I've probably blown it out by about 20 times. So if you work the system, if you do the things you're supposed to do, if you give value into the system, you're going to get stuff back out of it. You just have to do the work. You have to give that value in. And you have to figure out, how am I going to measure how I'm getting that value in? And I'll show you that in a second. Um, Next one is the law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. Now, the problem that people get into there is, let's say you're an attorney, and let's say, you're only limited by, and I know we have some great attorneys in the organization. Actually met with one yesterday, and you know, but she only has the ability to see so many people. We all only have the ability to see so many people. If we all work 40 hours a week, which, by the way, when's the last time any of us have actually only worked 40 hours a week? But if you work 40 hours a week, you have 52 weeks in a year, take 2 weeks off, you have 2,000 hours in a year to work. All of us have the same amount of time. What this is talking about is how you serve people and how those people that you serve are serving others. And that's really where the value multiplier starts and then continues. Because the compensation is not a reflection of your goodness, worthiness, merit, or industriousness. It's an echo of that impact. It's that drop that spreads and spreads until at some point you can finally say, "Oh, look, I did that." Um, funny story. I was having a conversation with somebody right before this who met with someone that has actually talked about joining NIA, who was one of my students when I taught high school drum lines 30 years ago here in Nashville. And, because of that relationship, he ended up following a similar career path. And Shannon knows the gentleman I'm talking about. But it's amazing how something can happen way back when and go all the way through, um, to make an impact on someone else's life. Um, but my question to you is, what do you track? Now, we have a incredible point system that I know it drives. I would imagine it drives most of the franchise owners crazy because most people don't use it. Now, I, I'm a little mad right now because I'm second in Shannon's 5 organizations. Uh, I'm getting beat by somebody. I won't say who, Ray, but uh, and maybe somebody else now. I haven't looked at the recent numbers over all 5, but my tracking is really simple. I do that one because I want to win. Um, but my tracking is very simple. I make one quality introduction to another person every single day,
Oh,
7 days a week, 365 days a year. Now, actually, last year I made 435 introductions. And I just do a check mark in my calendar that I did it at the top of the page. I, I might get a little more, uh, you know, technical with it at some point. Actually, Shannon and I were talking about it yesterday about me building something in HubSpot to do it, and I might do that. But I just want to introduce good people to good people because I know if I introduce a good person to another good person, something's good is going to come out of it. Maybe. Now, I will tell you, if I also make an introduction and I kind of follow up with people and nobody's kind of reaching out, I also kind of put a tick in the back of my mind to remember that, if I make that introduction, I really kind of mean it, and I want people to make I would like people to honor that introduction by doing a follow up and at least having an initial conversation because I think that's important. But that's the only thing I track. Um, I don't track. I know a lot of people in the sales industry tracked. Okay, I gave this guy 3 referrals and he hasn't sent me anything yet. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Um, I've got a friend of mine. First of all, anybody know anything about 80s music? Raise your hand. Anybody? Everybody? Okay. So a good friend of mine lives here in Nashville. He's a drummer, and he puts just his whole thought process. And when he told me this, it just struck a chord. He said, I keep just putting good out into the world, and somehow, somewhere, somehow, it's going to come back to me. And so I'll tell you that his story. I'll abridge it, kind of abridge it. He was drumming around New York City. Yeah, he's a New Yorker. He's a Yankees fan. Don't hold that against him. And he was playing a gig, and he always made a point of talking to people. And there was this man, and he had a special needs child in a wheelchair. And the boy wanted to learn how to hold the drumsticks. And so this guy signed the drumsticks and handed it to the son and talked to him for a minute. Meanwhile, the roadies are like, "Come on, Sandy, let's go. We gotta get moving. We gotta get on the bus and get to the next gig." Or they wanted to have a drink or whatever else they did. But he wasn't playing on a big group. He was like in the mid of the, not doing big stuff. And so, but he continued on. He spent about 15 minutes with the child and the father, and then went on his way. About 3 weeks later, he's back in New York in between gigs, and he gets a phone call, and it's this guy, this father. He said, You don't know who I am, um, but I met you, you know, the other day, and you were so nice to my son." And he said, "Yeah, how was that? And how is he?" And it's great. He said, "I'm a record producer, and we've got this up and coming artist, and she's weird, and she's got pink hair, and we've fired like 9 drummers because she doesn't like any of them. Would you mind coming to the studio and just trying out? Just see what you could, because nobody wants to play with her, and we think she might have something." So he gets to the studio, and she looks at him and she goes, "All I want to do is hear the sound of a clock. That's all I want on this song, is the sound of a clock." Well, for a drummer, that's called a cross stick. That is one of the most boring things you can do. No drummer in their right mind is just going to play a cross stick for 3 minutes and 38 seconds in a song because some singer with pink hair is asking for it. Well, that's what Sandy did. And he ended up being the drummer for one of the largest arena tours in history with Cyndi Lauper, because he took the time, he threw good stuff out in the world, and it came back to him. So you just never know. You never know. And don't track what other people are giving to you, track what's going out. So, and here we go again. Brooks, you're jinxing my machine here. So the law of influence, your influence is determined by how abundantly by you place other people's interest first. And I'm really bad about this. Shannon, at the beginning of all our meetings, I think everybody runs off the same agenda, asks us all to say in 30 seconds, what do you need? How can we help you? Um, and I'm horrible about because when I say I'm horrible, um, it all goes back to that: people know, like, and trust. And in order for people to do that, sorry, it's all about helping other people's from my perspective. So I am always listening. If you have a meeting with me, and this is real weird, I've said way more words than I'm used to having in a meeting, because I usually ask questions and try to get people to talk. I think I see Rachel's on the call, Rachel Smith, and we had a hour and a half together last week or so. And I mean, we had a great conversation, but you know, I like to ask questions and get people to tell me more about what they are. Uh, and that's I think that's how you help others because you figure out what they really need. By the way, Rachel's got a great story. So if you ever get a chance to have a one-on-one with her, I think you should because it's interesting what she's some of the stuff she's done. This is the thing that I have the biggest problem with, and Shannon always gives me hell about it. And it's the law of receptivity. The key effective to giving is to staying open to receiving. And I had a pastor of mine tell me this way: when you tell people, when you don't allow people to help you, you're not accepting and you're not giving them the ability to bless you with the things that you're blessing them with. And when he said that, it just hit me because if we're on this earth really to do things for other people and do good things for other people, then we also need to let that happen the other way and let people do good things for us. Um, so if you don't let you yourself receive, you're refusing the gifts of others and you shut down the flow. So back to my friend Sandy Gennaro, he would put good stuff out in the world. And he said, Dave, I'm putting good stuff out there. And at some point, it whips right back around and hits me in the head. And I don't know when it's going to hit, but when it does, it's a huge blessing. He started when he started doing his speaking stuff, and he is a now international speaker for Vistage. He goes all over the world speaking for Vistage chapters. Uh, it was just the same way. He just started doing these little things, and he gives drumsticks that have his name on them, and it's a blast. And hearing him talk, of course, again, he's a Yankee, so you know he sounds like he's from New York because he is. Um, but if you block it, you back it up, it doesn't the flow doesn't cycle and it loses its effectiveness. So be willing and be open to receive what other people are willing to help you with. And again, the value translation here is be willing to receive. That means that when Shannon introduces you to somebody, or I introduce Rachel to Brooks, or whatever, receive that and run with the ball. Receive it and do something with it. Not, okay, I'll do something with it later, put it in up, and now it's 75 things down in my inbox, and then it's 2 weeks later. And that happens. It happens to everybody. But as soon as you get that gift, say thank you and turn around and set up something. Even if it's, hey, I'm really swamped right now, but I'm putting a reminder for us to circle back around in 2 weeks. Is that okay? Because when you do that, you're doing two things. First of all, you're receiving the gift from me, which says, okay, so you value that I took the taken the time to do that introduction. And you've also told that other person that they're important and you really want to talk to them. You're just in a season right now where you're just a little bit backed up. And that's okay. Or set the time for later. All of us have tools and technology, and we all love this great technology. And I have so much technology, I don't know what to do with it, obviously, because I'm screwing up the PowerPoint. But use it. Schedule something out. Send somebody a calendar link and say, hey, put some time on my book, even if it's 20 minutes, so we can talk. because you're going to learn something from everybody. I learn something from everybody I talk to. Um, I'll brag on Rachel. She shared with me that her van has solar panels on the top and is self-sufficient, and she can actually live in her van and be self-sufficient, has actually done so. It's amazing. It just looks like a normal van. It was, it's hilarious. I've told so many people about that. Sorry, Rachel, she's probably going to be like mad at me now, but it was just kind of cool because, again, hearing someone else's story. Anyway, she, like I said, she's probably going to be mad at me now. Um, Lastly, the law of authenticity. Well, actually, that's not the last one. It's the next last one. The most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. Who are you? We know who Moose is. He loves LSU. God help him, but he does. You know, but I said I'm a proud mountaineer. You know, that's great. And whether you identify with a college or but be yourself. And when you're yourself, people know and can tell and can make that connection. That's a critical skill. We're not in the software business or the law business or the exit strategy planning business or the marketing business or whatever. We're in the people business. We're all in the people business. So make that connection, be authentic, and you will, time and time again, get more value and give more value, and you'll have a great time. Be yourself. Um, I've had a real hard time with that as of late. Everybody goes through seasons in life, and be truthful. I kind of forgot that first picture was up there on the screen. I probably should have changed it because right now my wife and I are going through a divorce. That picture was from my daughter's wedding um, 4 years ago, and you know, it's painful. Uh, but I'm me. I'm still me. I'm gonna be even a better me eventually. But the better you know the person is human, the more you're gonna know how they are. It's great, and I'm picking on people on the thing. Brooks, with one of his sayings for his company, used to be, I think he still uses it, is we speak human. We speak human. We talk to people. It's all about being in that human element, and that human element is being yourself. So, um, so again, this whole thing was all on the book, The Go Giver. I'm very thankful to have done this with you guys, for you guys. Um, you know, the more you give, the more you're ultimately going to have. Whether you read it from you know Zig Ziglar or Bob Berg and John David Mann, whether you read it from the Book of Proverbs or from wherever whatever you study and whatever you're doing to sharpen your sword, um, the more you focus on other people, uh, the more you're going to get better results. And I'm a true believer in that, as I know all of you are, because you wouldn't, if you didn't believe that, you wouldn't be paying the exorbitant fee you're paying to hear me speak right now. So no, but seriously, you wouldn't be paying to be part of organization like NIA that it is so intentional with getting people to get connected and for people to get better at what they do. And I am very thankful that I get to learn from people. And like I've heard several people say, and like I say all the time, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. Um, and if I think I'm the smartest person in the wrong room or in the room, then I'm probably pretty arrogant or being a jerk or some other word that I won't use because I don't know all of you, but most of you have heard me say it that know me. So
David, there
anyway,
may be some questions. I thought I would point out to you guys, there's a lot of, I have a similar saying that says you got to get out of your own way. We all go through these seasons. Like, I need leads, I need referrals, I need business. We all understand that. But what I'm really hearing you say, David, is that, like, where I say, get out of your own way and think of others first. And just some perspective for those on the call, across my 5 groups, David was the highest in points and went on the most one-to-ones. And I point that out because David is always trying to get to know people, go on one-to-ones again, listen and continually learn about people because he's looking for opportunities to help them. And clearly that's been successful, both personally and professionally. And so I thank you for sharing your wisdom. With that note, besides the mindset, is there, and I like your goal of, 7 introductions a week. Is there any other like tip or system or something that you've done, besides your inherent nature to do this? What kind of tips or tools have you kind of put into place to make sure that when we're going through those seasons, we continue to put others first?
um, eh, I don't know that I have any wisdom on that. Quite honestly, it's just how I live. I'm a big believer in the beginning of every week on Sunday evening. I take a look at my calendar and I have 3 big goals for the week, and I have certain people I want to make sure I reach out to. Um, Certain people come to mind, and I will, you know, there are people that I know that are going through, tough situations. Maybe they're going through family situations or health situations or whatever. I try to, you know, be intentional with discussions and my ask of what can I do for you? And it's and make sure that it's not a, you know, oh shucks, thanks, but that they really mean it. They know I mean it. What can I do to make your burden, your problem a little less problematic? So it's all about intention. So
Awesome.
don't
Anybody
ask
have
me
any
about
questions?
technology because technology, there's just so much technology. I've got so many subscriptions. It's insane, and none of them are talking to each other right now. And I went back to HubSpot, and it now is confusing my old HubSpot account with my new HubSpot account, and so I'm cussing HubSpot right now. But yeah, anything else? Anybody else?
Yeah, I do.
Moose, do you want to bet on a game? Yeah.
Absolutely. We open up with Clemson Tigers on August the 30th, and I cannot wait. Hey, man, how did you retire at 41? I believe I recall.
47. I sold my
47.
business. I had a financial planning firm and I sold it.
There you go. I recall that.
I didn't see any way out of a Hillary Clinton presidency,
Mhm.
and that wasn't a political statement as much as it was a regulatory one. The
Mhm.
regulations under in the financial services industry had gotten really bad, and I expected them to get worse.
Mhm.
And one of my mentees, over too many bourbons, said, "Oh, you'll never sell it." And I said, "Well, you know what it's worth. Make me an offer." And he did, and we had it closed in 30 days.
Good for you.
So, and wouldn't change it, and if even if I hadn't done it, because it it was time for me to move on and time for me to make a change.
Who's a good
That
client
season
for
was
you?
over.
I apologize. Who's a good client for you? How can we help you?
The thing that I'm doing right now, the best way a client is, one of my clients calls me his consigliere. So if you watch The Sopranos or Godfather or any of those type things, I'm the guy that, he has accountants, he has attorneys, but I'm the guy that stands in the background and listens to all the business stuff and says, no, you don't need to do that, and here's why. Um, I help a lot of people figure out how they're going to plan their exit. So 3 years out, what does that look like? Um, I also do some things where, I do speaking. I'm very fortunate. Bob doesn't go out and speak anymore. He does everything virtually. So if somebody wants his speech given uh, live, I'm one of the people he sends out. So I think I've got uh, seven live speaking events for him over the next 3 months or so. So um, I just like to have good conversations, Moose. So uh, I'll look you up. We can have a call and talk about the dominance of the SEC versus the Big 12, and we'll kind of go from there.
I have a question, David. I'd like to ask the room if you guys haven't thought about this already. Just, some of the stuff I think we know, and it's so nice to just see it succinctly in those reminders. What's one thing that you're going to do differently? Either this reminded you need to be doing and you're not anymore, or what's one thing that you're going to challenge yourself to do differently after listening to David's presentation? Anybody want to jump in?
Yeah, this is Mike Smith. I think the big thing is, you know, give more than your value. If you constantly give more than your value, you're always going to have an abundance.
That the abundance thing, so many people have a scarcity mindset
Mhm.
instead of a prosperity mindset or an abundance
Mhm.
mindset. And there's a speaker out of Chicago named Ellen Rogan who wrote a book in 2014 called The Picture to Prosperity. She's a female financial advisor, primarily works with women, great speaker. And she actually was one of the first people that kind of started doing vision boarding and doing that whole idea of that thought process of prosperity, not, you know, oh, woe is me, everything is, kind of like the whole Tigger, or not Tigger, Eeyore, whoa, woe is me, that kind of stuff. It's that prosperity mindset. I think that's where people get hung up. There's so much opportunity. Wherever you are, wherever you're sitting, there's opportunity all around you. You just have to sit there and say, okay, where do I go get it? Where do I find it?
I love it. Anybody else? Any takeaway or something that you want to apply moving forward?
Hey, Shannon, this is Alonzo.
Mhm.
Hey, David, good job, man.
Thank you.
I don't know, about 10, 12 years ago, I did a spiritual gifts test at church.
Hmm.
And on the other side of it, I realized that the thing that made me what I was a catalyst. And I was qualified to be able to run a company, and I've run companies before. But the thing that gave me joy and the thing that made me sleep well at night was to know I did something that impacted somebody else's life.
Hmm.
Um, and when my company, I got acquired about 4 years ago, and I've been searching for this thing to do since that. And now I've started a program where I actually help people get out of corporate and buy their own companies.
Hmm.
And right now, nothing has given me more satisfaction than actually helping somebody else's legacy and changing the roadmap of their family's life and generation and all that kind of stuff to help them do something as powerful as this. So I read The Go Giver about 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm glad you're talking about it because you're bringing back things that I hadn't read in a while. But giving is truly more, blessed to give than receive. I'll take that to my grave.
Very
Thank
good.
you,
Thank you,
Alonzo.
Alonzo. And hey, if you would, go ahead and put your contact info in. I'd love to chat with you more about what you're doing and how you're helping people. So I won't mind talking to you because you're a Florida Gator. I think that's a Gator in the background. So if I'm going to talk to an LSU Tiger, I'll talk to a Gator too.
All day and twice on Sunday.
There we go.
David,
Yes, sir.
I would just like to, I would feel personally remiss if I didn't mention the strength of which I felt your uh, transparency in terms of going through a divorce and that kind of thing. I just think you're remarkable, man, and I appreciate you, and I just had to say that. Yeah, I think you give me some special things going forward. I'm not doing, going through that kind of trying time now, but I, in the past was a licensed clinical social worker, and I think I understand some of the pain and impact, that you might be going through, and you talk about being in another place down the road, and hey, you'll be there, you'll get there. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Ralph. And there's no reason to, I mean, it's being transparent and being who you are. And,
Okay.
people appreciate it. And it's part of who I am right now.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I have one thought.
Yes.
I think in life, because you never know what the shelf life is going to be, finding your true why you do what you do is so super critical that when you wake up every morning, you go, oh my God, I get to do this. Whether it's a franchise owner, no matter what the industry is or what your profession is, find your why. We all know what we do and why, but why do we do what we do? And I really think that as a heart patient, I had a pretty severe heart attack in 22, and then I've had some heart issues over the past couple of years. And every day I wake up and I go, man, I'm lucky to be here. I left corporate America in 2003. I vowed that I'd never go back. And fortunately, fortunately, I haven't had to do that. But when I found Network in Action, or it found me in November of 2014, it was life changing because I get to do what I want to do, how I want to do it for everyone else. And then I get back in return more things in life than I can ever that I'm just really fortunate. So thank God I'm a wreck.
We're all glad to have you, Moose.
Thank you.
Dr. Dana put in the comments, thank you, David. I'm a giver. However, I will be more intentional across all sectors, not just in my spiritual life. I think sometimes if you want to talk about spiritual and business, I think sometimes people do focus so much and they forget the fact that if you give to others, like even in business, it may give you an opportunity to talk more on the spiritual side, right? Because you're giving selflessly to help others and you're adding value without needing anything in that conversation in return. So that was really good. And Rachel put, I didn't know the go-giver was where no like trust came from. So
I'm
anybody
sure they
else?
stole it from somewhere, but he's credited with it even on AI. So if it's on AI, it has to be true. So
Wonderful. Anybody else? Any takeaways? Anything that you're kind of committing to yourself that you're going to do differently after today?
I welcome everybody to look me up on LinkedIn. I'm the only Moose Rosenfeld.
Awesome. Thanks, Moose. Well,
So I'd add one last comment, for Shannon
Yeah.
and David. So I read this book back in, I don't know, 2017, maybe. It was a while back. It's been out for a while. And it was one of those things that was kind of a life-changing, one of those books that is significant in terms of changing your thought process and who you are. And I have a tendency to leverage quotes from this book and speak from the book into our members. When we do agendas and things like that, somehow they seem to weave it in about, every third agenda or something like that. I'm using something from the book, so it's fairly significant. And the hard part for people is the non-expectation of getting something back. That's the most difficult thing, and that's not how our society is, given that it's kind of a fast food society, and they want to, hey, how do I, get something in return like right now, and where's my ROI? And but this is one of those things that your mindset has to be long term when you are really putting this into practice.
You're playing the long game.
I found that even though it's a long game, when you truly just focus just on helping others, the not what's in it for me, it's amazing how quickly some things can turn around. Right? In fact, sometimes, and this is interesting for our conversation, David, when you're in a slump, like, okay, who can I go help? And I've done that. Let me go leave some Google reviews. Let me go make some introductions. Like, who can I go help? And it's amazing what it does to our own energy. Just to take a break and focus on others. Go ahead, Alonzo. Sorry.
But I think the other part of it is people can see right through it. And, I went to a networking group, an event, it's had to be 15 years ago. We're all gathering and we're talking. And it's about five minutes has gone past when the event should have actually started. The gentleman who was running the event was standing on stage and he looked out and he let it go 5 minutes longer on purpose. And then he tapped his microphone and everybody looked up and he said, whoa, no, stay where you are. He said, how many people are here to sell something? And everybody had the always be closing mindset and everybody raised their hand. And he said, how many people are here to buy something? And nobody raised their hand. He said, you guys come to networking with the wrong mentality. The job is to come here to get to know people, to like people, so you can trust people. And if they do that with you, they'll be more than happy to buy from you. He said, so I want you to take another 10 minutes and network. But this time I want you to ask 3 questions. Where's your hometown? What high school did you go to? And what's your favorite sports team? And when he did that, the volume of noise that went up in the networking event, it was like 100 people here. It was almost like you couldn't hear yourself think. And what ended up happening was people started realizing they were from the same hometown in Wisconsin. They went to the same high school just years apart. And then they started actually making connections with people. It was just a different mindset.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. That's a great example. It's awesome. Well, I always we want to get everybody out in time. We're about at the top of the hour. Does anybody else have any other questions for David or comments or takeaways? Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. I appreciate it. And thank you very much, David. I enjoyed it. I enjoy the reminders. I know I've read it several times. In fact, I'm sure you gave me a copy of it, but I definitely need to reread it because it's just that you can never read it enough because the timing's always going to be right. You're going to hear something and say, that's why I read that today. I needed that one little sentence in there.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. And go ask somebody how you can help them.